We continue now at the top of Daf Samech Beis Amud Aleph in Meseches Nedarim. This is Nedarim Daf 62a. The Gemara says, Tana was taught, Hukfalu Rov HaMiksos, when most of the knives have been put away, Mutaros Mishum Gezel Upeturos Min HaMaisr. So then we say that the figs that are in the field, they're mutter in terms of taking them, they're considered hefker, it's not considered stealing. It's also pater from Meiser because it's considered hefker. At that point in time, once those knives that are used to harvest the figs are put away, that means everything remaining in the field is hefker. Rabbi and Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda iklu lahu asra. Rabbi and Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda, they went to a certain place, Bizman shehukfalu, rov hamiksos, when most of the knives were already put away. Rabbi Havika achel, Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda lo achel. Rabbi would eat from there, and Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda was not eating from there. So asam maron, so the owner came out, Amar lahu, he said to them, Amaylo achli rabbanan, why aren't the rabbis eating? Hukfalu rov hamiksos, who most of the knives have been put away. It's hefker, you can eat. But the Gemara says, nevertheless, Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda still did not eat because he thought the person might have just been saying it out of hostility. He might not have been serious about giving them the food, the produce of the field. Rather, he was saying it almost like sarcastically, not to give them the food. And the Gemara continues, Rabbi Chama bar Rabbi Chanina ikla lahu asra. Rabbi Chama bar Rabbi Chanina went to a certain place, Bizman shehukfalu rov hamiksos havika achel. So at the time, again, it was a time when most of the knives were put away. He was eating yoyev l'shame lo achel, and he gave it to his servant, and the servant did not eat. Amar le, he said to him, echel, you should eat it. Kach amar li Rabbi Yishmael bar Rabbi Yossi mishum aviv. So said to me Rabbi Yishmael bar Rabbi Yossi in the name of his father. Hukfalu rov hamiksos mutaros mishum gezel upeturos min hamaiser. If most of the knives have been put away, there's no issue of gezel. It's pater from meiser. It's considered to be hefker. And the Gemara continues, Rabbi Tarfon Ashkechayahu Gavra Bizman Shehukfalu Hamiksos to Ka'achel. So Rabbi Tarfon, a certain person who owned the field, found Rabbi Tarfon eating from his field at the time that most of the knives were put away. So achse besako beshakle ve'amtie lemishte benahara. So he put him into a sack, meaning the person took Rabbi Tarfon, tied him up in a sack, and he was going to take him and throw him into the river. Amar lo oilo l'Tarfon shezeh hargos. Rabbi Tarfon screamed out from the sack, and he said, "Woe is to Tarfon that this person is about to kill him." So Shamahu a Gavra, so then that person heard, he realized that this was the great Rabbi Tarfon, Shav Keva Orak, so he abandoned him, he ran away, and he left him. Amar Rabbi Avo Mishum Rabbi Chananya ben Gamliel. Rabbi Avo says in the name of Rabbi Chananya ben Gamliel, Kol Yomav Shalosot Tzaddik Kol Mitztar Al Davar Zeh. All of the days of the life of this particular Tzaddik Rabbi Tarfon, he was actually upset over this incident. Amar, he said, Oy li, woe is to me, shenishtamashti bechisra shel Torah, that I utilized the crown of the Torah for my own purposes, meaning I used the fact that I was a Talmud Chacham in order to take this produce and then in order to avoid being thrown in the river by this individual. And the Gemara says, V'yamar Rabba bar bar Chana Amar Rav Yochanan, and Rabba bar bar Chana says that Rav Yochanan says, Kol mishtamish b'kisra shel Torah nekar min ha'olam. Anybody who uses the crown of Torah for personal benefit is uprooted from the world. Kal v'chomer, it's a kal v'chomer. Uma Belshazzar shenishtamish b'chli kodesh shenasu kli chol. Belshazzar, he used the kalim of the Beis Hamikdash, but they had already become klei chol. They already became profane. They weren't considered to have sanctity anymore. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, Uvoba prizim v'chilalu. It says that when the people come and they breach the Beis Hamikdash and they enter the Beis Hamikdash and destroy the Beis Hamikdash, so it's chilalua. It's considered like they've profaned everything. It's all nasu chol. It no longer has the status of hektish, and he used those kalim from the Beis Hamikdash which no longer were considered to be hektish. Kevon shapirtzom nasu chol. Again, once they breached into the Beis Hamikdash, it becomes like chol. But yet, nevertheless, nekar min ha'olam. Nevertheless, Belshazzar was uprooted from the world. Like the pasuk says, Babilielia kadal Belshazzar. It says that night Belshazzar was killed. SoAmishtamish bekisra shel Torah shuchai v'kayim liolam. A person who utilizes for personal benefit the crown of the Torah, which is something that's living and eternal, alachas kama v'kama, most certainly the person is going to be nekar min ha'olam. He'll be uprooted from the world. Rabbi Tarfon came in dechiyachel dehukfalu rov hamiksos have, but the Gemara says 1 second. If Rabbi Tarfon was eating the food at the time that most of the knives were put away, so amai tzarei ahu gavra, why did that person bother him? He wasn't even doing anything wrong. It was hefker. And the Gemara answers to that, mishum dahu have a gonvi le invi kula shasa. The reason was because there were actually thieves that were stealing from this person grapes the entire year. V'kevan da ashkechel Rabbi Tarfon. So when he saw Rabbi Tarfon was taking this produce, savar hainu deganvan, he thought, oh, Rabbi Tarfon Tarfon must be the thief, and that's why he was attacking him. But the Gemara says, Yachi, if so, I might see her nafshe. So why was he upset about this whole thing? What did Rabbi Tarfon think he did wrong? Everything he did was appropriate. And the Gemara says, Mishum de Rabbi Tarfon Asher Gadol have it. The reason Rabbi Tarfon was upset and thought he did something wrong was because he was a very wealthy person. He should have simply paid him off with money. And the Gemara continues, Tanya, we learned in a brayso, Liavos Hashem Elokecha, Lishmoa Bekolo Lodavkavo. The pasuk says to love Hashem, to listen to Him, to cling to Him. Shlo Yomar Adam, a person shouldn't say Ekra Shikruuni Chacham. The reason why I'm learning the psukim is because I want to be called a Chacham. And Eshna Shikruni Rebbe, the reason why I'm learning the Mishnah is because I want to be called a Rebbe. Eshan and Sheyaz Zaken, again, I'm learning in order that I should be an elder, Ve'esh should be yeshiva, and I'll be able to sit in a yeshiva, meaning a person should not have these kinds of ulterior motives. Elulamed me'ava v'sof ha'kavod lavo. Rather, the person should learn out of love, and in the end, the honor will come. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, Koshem el etzbosecha, Kosem al luach libecha. It says you have to have them on your fingers, on your heart. V'yomer deracha darchei noam. The ways of the Torah are pleasant. V'yomer eitz chaim hi lemachazikim ba v'somchem ushar. It says that the Torah is a tree of life for those who cling to it, and the people who support it, they will be happy. And the Gemara continues, Rabbi Eliezer bar Rabbi Tzadok Omer, Rabbi Eliezer bar Rabbi Tzadok says, Asay dvarim l'shem pa'alam v'daber b'hem l'shmam. You should do things for their own sake. You should speak for their own sake. In other words, do things without the ulterior motive. Al tasem atar le'esgadol b'hem. Don't make it like a crown to become great from it. The al tasem kordam lios oderbo. Don't use it as a kordam to hoe with. Again, don't use it as though it is some kind of tool to be used for your own benefit. Kal v'chomer, it's a kal v'chomer. Ma Belshazzar shalon nishtamesh ela b'chlei kodesh shenasu klei chol. If Belshazzar, who used these holy vessels, but they were no longer holy, they were now klei chol, nekar min ha'olam, and he was uprooted from the world. Hamishtamesh b'chisra shel Torah lachas kama v'kama. Somebody who utilizes for personal benefit the crown of the Torah most certainly will be nekar min ha'olam. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rava says, Shari leila inish lo doi nafshe be'asr de lo yadile. A person is allowed to let people know who he is, tell people that he's a Talmud Chacham if he's in a place where people don't know him. Techsiv, like the pasuk says, V'yavdecha yores Hashem min urav. It says that Ovadia told Eliyahu Hanavi, he said, your servant feared Hashem from the days of his youth, meaning Ovadia was identifying himself to Eliyahu Hanavi as a Yoreh Shamayim, so you see that's permitted. And the Gemara continues, Alakasha de Rabbi Tarfon, but according to that, it's difficult, Rabbi Tarfon, why was he upset to reveal his identity? And the Gemara says, again, he was a wealthy person. Rabbi Tarfon felt he should have just given him money, paid him off in this situation. And the Gemara continues, Rava has the following contradiction in Psukim. Pasuk says that your servant feared Hashem from the days of his youth, meaning it seems to be okay to identify yourself in this fashion. But the Pasuk also says that a stranger should be the one to praise you, but it shouldn't come from your own mouth. And the Gemara answers, Haba Asra de Yadile, Haba Asra de Lo Yadile. It depends. If you're in a place where the people know him, so then he shouldn't say anything about himself. But if he's in a place where the people do not know him, so then he is allowed to say something praiseworthy about himself. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rava says, Shari Leila Tzurba Merabon and Lameimar, Tzurba Merabon, and a person who's a Talmud Chacham is allowed to say, I am a Talmud Chacham. Sharuli Tigroi Beresha, and therefore you should take my case. Let's say it's a court case, you should take my case first. Tichsiv, like the pasuk says, Uvnei David Kohanim Hayu. It says that the children of David were Kohanim. Of course, they were not actually Kohanim, but it means they were like Kohanim. Ma Kohen Notel Barosh, just like a Kohen takes first. Av Talmud Chacham Notel Barosh. So to a Talmud Chacham can take first. And the Gemara continues, V'choin Minolon. How do we know by a Kohen that he can take first? Tichsiv, like the pasuk says, V'kidashtu ki es lechem elokechu makriv. It says that he is holy because he brings the bread of God. V'tana devei Rabbi Shmuel, and it is taught in the yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel. V'kidashtu l'chol davar shebekdusha means you have to sanctify the Kohen for anything that is holy. And we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Samech Beis Amud Beis.